Part 77. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 767. What did Yanj think of, and asked, is he my old lover who is a demon? I don't know, said the cub. If you take more care of me with your old lover's time, I will be very happy. Yanj, are you happy or unrelated to me? Rub. The chicks don't want to care about this ignorant wood. The rescue came shortly after. Yanj was still awake, and when he got on the bus, he did not forget to ask the doctor Yanzimo's situation again. There is still a breath, but the person is still in a coma, and I don't know if it will be okay. When he arrived in the ambulance, it was probably because the tense nerves had relaxed, and Yan Ji passed out. When she woke up again, Zhao's father and mother Zhao were all around the bed. Yan Ji's leg was seriously injured, and her bony leg pressed by the door could not be saved and was sawed. A good girl, who wants to be a leg, Zhao's father, Zhao's mother is sad, but she doesn't dare to show up in front of the song, only to encourage the song. Even when the song is sober, I didn't dare tell this song. Yanj woke up in the middle of the night and felt it was not right to turn around. He lifted the quilt and took a look. Good guy, there was only one leg left. So when she asked about it the next day, before she wept, Zhao mother couldn't help crying. The one who scared the words didn't know what to say. Although one leg was lost, it was fatefully picked up. Yan Ji asked Zhao's father, Zhao's mother, and Yanzimo's condition, only to know that the guy was really dead, and heard that a kidney had been removed, and the liver was badly wounded. Out of the room, people were always in a coma. Although the Yan family has two sons, the eldest son has always been the pride of the Yan family. Now that this incident has happened, his father Yan and his mother are 10 years old with sorrow in just a few days. When Yanzimo was able to move slightly, he was directly transferred to a foreign hospital. Yan Ji had no chance to see him again. Most of his condition was learned from his father Zhao. She had been in the hospital for 2 months before she was discharged. Probably it was this accident that scared Zhao's father, Zhao mother, and Yanj cultivation has been at home for a while, and she can't go anywhere. When you are bored, you can only chat with Gu Yufan. Gu Yufan saw a red Ferrari for Yanj in the morning, but he hadn't seen Yanj for several days after returning to Beijing. Naturally, the car could not be sent out. After more than a month, Yanj finally contacted him again, and it was still the kind of sticky person who was contacting him every day. Gu Yufan was very surprised, holding her cell phone almost every day, trying her best to make her talk. The assistant joked that his state of holding his mobile phone was almost like a boy in love. Gu Yufan listened, his heart was sour. He was left out by her for more than a month. From the beginning, it turned out to be a little angry. Her relationship with the man was obviously unusual. He was thinking of her, but she wasn't sure. He never thought of him. Because of his anger, during this time, he tried to go with the women around him. As she said, he is already a star, and there are countless women admiring him. As long as he thinks, there will be women coming together. He doesn't have to, she has to ask her. Without her, he could find another girlfriend. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 768. Gu Yufan tried to associate with other women. But this attempt made him find something more desperate. Those women did not dare to face him, and when they laughed, her eyes were not as bright as her, and when talking, her voice was not as soft as her, and when she was beating him, she did not have the kind of seemingly tenderness that actually brought wolf temptation. Those women are nowhere near her. Every time I opened a room in the hotel and prepared it, but before I entered the hotel, after a meal, he couldn't force himself anymore. Even if he couldn't support a meal, he had already made excuses to leave. No comparison, I don't know if she is good, only to find out that he has been poisoned by her, and he doesn't even bother to look at other women except her. Is this normal for him? Obviously at the beginning, they did say to each other, only the interests, not the feelings. But he didn't know. When it started, he would love her so much, and he couldn't end it. He remembers what she once said, and once he gets angry, the relationship between them will become his dark history, and he can't wait to get rid of him. At that time, although he promised not, at the bottom of his heart he was not sure about the future, and even subconsciously felt that she was right. But now that he really becomes a big star, he realizes that he doesn't want to break this relationship. Don't want to break, just want to be with her for a long time. He asked what he liked her. He took out a blank sheet of paper, listing her good and her bad. The bad column of her, from the first to be held by other men, to the last to ignore him and care about him, a whole piece of paper cannot list her bad. In the column where she is good, there are only 3 words, she is fine. He stared at the paper for a long time, feeling ridiculous and sad. Then he realized that he was real and really fell in love with her. In love with her, even if she has countless shortcomings, she feels good. He fell in love with her, even if she didn't answer his love, he wanted to make up for the existence. This is not considered to be cheap. She talked about getting married that day, and he was really thinking about it. He planned, and wanted to give her a romantic and pleasant proposal. The chicken had a little doubt about this mighty man. The host of the previous life was so embarrassed that he liked him, why he just loved to answer it, this time I didn't think you were good to him, why he but it was posted instead. Since the chicken will also fall in love in the future, he will be tricked if he doesn't pay attention, so Yanj explained it patiently, whether a man or a woman, they like to be mean, and you keep him by his side every day and you become that. The mosquito blood that disgusted him, from time to time you give him some sugar and then hang him, and he thinks you are his red rose. After a pause, he added, of course, the main reason is that I am attractive. The chicken praised sincerely, you don't have a big breast to add charm, you're kind of going to do something else. Yanj, an animal/life like you must not understand what charm is. This contemptuous tone is so different from what it was just now. The chicken couldn't understand why this wood is so fickle, but it still argues reasonably, who says I don't understand, the charm is that you will know it's also a skill to be good at bedtime, and I really admire you in this regard. Words of song. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 769. Yan Ji didn't want to talk to this beast anymore, but couldn't help it. Also, when it comes to bed technology, I've been through many battles, and I'm really much better than your 10,000 years. Chicken. It was found that Gu Yufan had recently started to test her bottom line in words, and Yanj felt that he should give this guy a potent medicine. She asked KN's sister to give Gu Yufan a movie contract that could lead to the international road. This film, from the director to the actor, are all big names. If he can squeeze into this rank, he can also open a channel for himself in the movie market in the future. Gu Yufan's ecstasy didn't last long, because KN said that Gu Yufan's role in this hand was specially won for him by the senior management. One condition was that he accompany the senior management to go out for a night. KN said that the senior is a woman, and since Gu Yufan's debut, he has always appreciated his obsession with him. KN said that this is a very rare opportunity. Gu Yufan felt that he had fallen into a crossroads. He was a little at a loss. I don't know what to choose. It was about her way. He went very smoothly along the way. Even if some investors and producers made vague requests to him, he could refuse with confidence. This is the first time he has been confronted with such a serious matter. Moreover, that person is still a big-name person in the company. Even KN is so cautious, we can see how important this big man is in the company. Gu Yufan hesitated for a moment and said, "After this incident, I want to terminate the contract with the company. Xingyu's resources are huge, and therefore, the new people who sign up have very strict contracts. After all, no one wants to make wedding clothes for others, so they make people popular, and they turn around and jump ship again. Even though Gu Yufan is now a star in the circle, he still can't terminate the contract with Xingyu. His request is very harsh." KN apparently did not expect Gu Yufan to raise the conditions. Although Gu Yufan felt that Gu Yufan was a little ignorant, he did not show it, but called and asked the boss. To KN's surprise, the big brother agreed. "I agreed. Buying your own overnight freedom for the next 10 years, Gu Yufan rationally felt that it was worth it. But he was a little hesitant. Does he know that? Will he dislike him? But immediately she thought, it was just one night thing, she would never know. He was lucky, thinking that he had left Xingyu, so he didn't need her to help him. He can open a studio by himself, and if Xingyu suppresses it, he can also open a shop of his own. There is no need to mix in this circle. He can even court her rightly, regardless of the notice image, and tired of her every day." So even if he was tangled or hesitant, he finally responded. "The night when I had a meeting with the company's senior management, the moon was very round. The date was on a cruise ship, which was obviously chartered by this so-called high-rise. In the glorious cruise ship, you can't see any other people except the guides who lead the way. The waiter did not take him directly to the high level, but led him to turn every place in the yacht. On the deck are flowers-made castles, flower arches, and a pair of groom and bride dolls stacked with flowers. The cruise ship is very cheerfully arranged all around." But he wasn't at all happy. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 770. Gu Yufan was behind the waiter, and it was probably too quiet around him. He even felt that he could hear his heartbeat. Having made the decision, of course he will not regret it. But my heart gradually became blank with each step. Did she choose this path for him at the beginning? Was she in the same mood as he is now? Isn't it as sad as he is now? She was a girl, and it must have been more uncomfortable than him. He squeezed his fingers tightly, but it did not take long for him to loosen again. One night, just one night. From then on, he would be able to pester her all day and bore her with her for a lifetime. Finally arrived at the restaurant, the high-rise in KN's mouth leaned leaning in front of the window and stood, as if admiring the night view of the water on the outside. The colorful fireworks outside the window are blooming all the time, but it is strange that these fireworks have no sound. She turned her back on him, wearing a red dress, not a European-style dress, but an ancient dress similar to a bride's dress in the Tang and Song dynasties. The dress was embroidered with gold peony and phoenix. A dress is really bright and eye-catching. Her hair curled up high, and there was a delicate thorny rose on one side. Just a back view, you can see her smooth and silky shoulders and arms, and her thin waist. The dress was bright, but her graceful and soft back seemed to be more beautiful than the dress. Gu Yufan's eyes fell on her with a slight glance. She seemed to hear his footsteps, and although she didn't turn her head, she said, "This is the venue I was going to use to get engaged. The engagement should be the best time of the day, and there will be colorful balloons and white pigeons all over the cruise ship. There will be many people on the deck, guests who are blessing me with a sound, and children, happy children who run in the castle of flowers. The ears should be noisy cheers, and countless others. Applause and the low words of the bride and groom." Her voice was very low and very gentle, very light and soft, and her voice seemed to be filled with happiness and joy. The layout of the cruise ship just swept away appeared in front of his eyes. He was rendered by her voice, his mind. It seems that there really is a picture of a couple getting engaged on this yacht. But the happier her voice was, the sadder he heard. The picture was very realistic in his mind. He listened to her description, and tears fell unconsciously, but he never interrupted her. Later, her voice became a sentence, "You Fan, the table is the contract you want, and after you stay with me tonight, you will be free." Mimi, he shouted lowly, the pain of the tip of his tongue spreading deep into his throat. He looked at her with water mist in his eyes, and she gradually became hazy in front of him, as if the red look had become the blooming rose on her head. He remembered that the first time she did that with him, she also wore a red skirt. She likes red, and red is perfect for her. She was in a red dress, stunning and beautiful. Into his eyes, into his heart, he stared at her stupidly, not enough to see. Mimi, he strode forward, holding her from behind. "I don't want freedom, I only want you. I originally wanted to leave Xingyu and pursue you. I also prepared a grand proposal for you ceremony. Mimi, Mimi, I don't want anything, I just want you. After my death, the villain blackened again." Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 771. The person in Gu Yufan's arms didn't move, only whispered, "Yifan, a good friend of mine told me that love has never stood the test, and men can never go to the test." I closed one eye, but I didn't believe it. I originally prepared the invitation. Today's day, if it goes well, it should be my engagement day with you. I asked my good friend why this was the result. She said that I was too arrogant to test a man like this. A man can't stand such a test. She's right. But I can't convince myself like that. I am very sad. Yufan, am I boring? I'll play with you like this. She faced him face to face, raised her head, stomped her feet, and her red lips touched his chin. One touch away. Sorry, Yufan. I shouldn't play on you because I'm rich and powerful. I'm wrong. She had a guilty voice and was apologetic. But he was more panicked and scared when he heard it. He hurriedly squeezed her tightly and said, "No, no, I don't want to be sorry, I don't, I just want you, Mimi, Mimi, you are right, you are not wrong, it's my fault, Mimi, Mimi, you give me another chance, okay, you give me another chance." Yanj looked at him. The lights were bright, and the halo fell on her. She was like a fairy surrounded by guanghua, which attracted her eyes and wanted to fall on her. The skin on her face was shining white, and those eyes were brighter than the lights. At the moment, she was the only one in her eyes. She looked up at him and said softly, "Yufan, I gave you and me a lot of opportunities." Yeah, from the beginning, he didn't look at her and took her in exchange for benefits. Later, they betrayed their agreement. He has many reasons and excuses, and he has many last resorts. But what are these last resorts? Right or left, is not enough to love her. Her eyes made him even more uncomfortable. He hugged her tightly and kissed her eyebrows. "Please, Mimi, please, please give me another chance, I will never be in this life. I will deceive you again, and I will never let you down." "But I can't believe it anymore." Yanj looked at him. "Yufan, let's get together and leave a beautiful ending in my heart, okay?" He held her hands tightly under her steamy eyes, but gradually loosened, but in the end, he still didn't give up, and asked her, "Mimi, I am true, like you, I just want terminating the contract with Xingyu is bright with you." Yan Ji shook his head gently. "Yufan, give me one last bit of respect. It's good to get together and loose, there's no need to tear it up." Gu Yufan slowly let go of the song. He opened his mouth and wanted to talk. Sadness penetrated his body, and he couldn't even speak for a while. "Still," she said, "Yufan, sit with me for a while. The fireworks outside are beautiful. It is good." He moved the chair, and the two of them sat together in front of the window. The fireworks in the sky outside the window seemed to burst into her eyes, and her bright eyes had become even more beautiful. He stared at her side by side, for a moment. Today, I finally understand that the so-called gold master in her mouth is herself. Around a large circle, the thorn he planted in his heart turned out to be nothing. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 772. Obviously she lied to him. But now, he is full of guilt and regret. Gu Yufan tried his best to restrain those emotions, as if she had been a gossip for many years with her old friends. Do you have any plans in the future? There are no plans for the time being, Yanj said. I wanted to go to the company to exercise first, but my parents were a bit uneasy about me and wanted me to stay at home. If it's boring, you can play with me in the future. I left Xingyu and planned to open a small shop as a small boss myself, so that I would not be as busy as before. Aren't you your favorite star? Everyone likes you very much. You can open your own studio. If you encounter any difficulties in opening a studio, you can also call me. We are still friends. He looked at her, his throat rolled, and with her concerned eyes, he finally said, okay, when I have any questions, I'll find you. She wants him to be a star, then he will be a star. He will listen to her from now on. Can she accept him again? Yan Ji nodded with a smile, well, if I can do it, I will help you. He finally couldn't help but asked her lowly, why did you break up with me, and why should I be so good? Okay, she tilted her head and thought, it's all a hand-raising job, which is not good. If I get married in the future, I will be better for my man. Gu Yufan felt that his chest seemed to be faintly aching, and he was having trouble breathing. But facing her, she was still laughing, trying to make herself smile gently. Every time I met, two people seized a limited amount of time to do some love things, but this night, the only contact between the two people was just a small pull. They watched the fireworks in the middle of the night and slept in bed together. Very simple sleeping in kimono. She handed him a book for him to read to her. When I first noticed you, it was because of your voice. Previously, my classmates said that there is a feeling that the ear is pregnant when I hear it. At that time, I felt too exaggerated. Later, after hearing your voice, I felt it's not an exaggeration at all. I want to fall asleep while listening to your voice. He lay beside her, reading the prose collection in his hand. Gradually, his mind was attracted by the Shijiaozan in his hand, and his voice was low and murmured, I would like to be transformed into a stone bridge, to stand the wind of 500 years, the day of 500 years sun, 500 years of rain just for her to walk across the bridge. Overnight, even if he didn't close his eyes, the sky would soon light up. She was like a sleeping princess, awake from her sleep, and said to him with a smile, Yufan, goodbye. It's goodbye, not hello. He smiled at her and had a terrible headache, but he could only smile back at her. He closed the book and said, Mimi, goodbye. My heart was embarrassed and my brain was muddled, but as she said, I still wanted to be the last decent in front of her. He got up and got out of bed and walked towards the door. The steps were slow and heavy, just like when he came. However, the mood of coming and leaving is totally different. At the door, he looked back at her, and she nodded at him with a smile. He knew it was impossible, but he gave up the last decent and begged her again, Mimi, is it really impossible between us? Yan Ji nodded, don't take it to heart. This is something I did wrong. Even when she broke up, she was also reserved and gentle, looking at him with tolerance and regret. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 773. Such a comparison makes Gu Yufan feel more self-reliant. He whispered and said, "It's me, it's not me, Mimi, I hope you can find someone you care about in the future, and hope that person will not let you down." Yes, Yanj smiled. There will be a day, and you will find such a person. Will he? His man has been found. But he missed it? I met her so well, and since then, which girl can be seen by him? He had tried it, and knew that by missing her, he had nowhere to rest in his life. Gu Yufan and Xingyu's termination of the contract was negotiated by the two parties, and did not set off a big wave in the entertainment industry. Gu Yufan opened his own studio. In fact, he thought in private, maybe there were more works, she would have more chances to see him, see more, maybe she would still miss him. Yanj really remembers Gu Yufan. She was thinking about this guy's kidney. One of Yanzimo's kidneys has been removed, and another kidney has recently been in a state of rapid failure. Everyone in the Yan family started, but no one's kidney matched Yanzimo. With the financial resources of the Yan family, the entire source of kidney in the country has been searched for, and no one can be found suitable for Yanzimo. I thought it was hopeless. As a result, Yan's father revealed an illegitimate child. He had his first love at school, and then revived with him at a party. But it didn't take long for the two to break up again. Child was married to someone else. That illegitimate child is Gu Yufan. And Gu Yufan and Yanzimo's various indicators just matched. The Yan family had negotiated with Gu Yufan, but no agreement was reached. Yan's mother didn't know where to learn about the words and Gu Yufan, so she cried and asked for words to be a lobbyist. This kind of plot of dog blood, although appearing in this plane, is not a big deal. Even if we talk about it in detail, it is not so bloody. However, when Yanj learned that, there was still a kind of illusion like a thunder. She asked the cub, a powerful person like Gu Yufan, his kidney gave Yanzimo, and more or less he could pull Yanzimo's life back. Chicken, do you know what the kidney means to a man? Do you think he will give the kidney to Yanzimo? Would, don't take it as important as you think, a man loves his kidney more than anything else. You're right, Yanj said, finally not as stupid as before. Without waiting for the chicks to explode, Yanj said, well, you never mentioned to me what went wrong with the geek system. Chicken, why am I so stupid to get into the system? You asked the wrong person. Yanj laughed and didn't provoke the guy to provoke him. She went directly to Gu Yufan's studio. On a hot summer day, she wore a colorful Hawaiian-style skirt with a long skirt that was almost mopping the floor, and also made her waistline thin and elegant. Wearing sunglasses, she looks really fanciful, and the little girl at the front desk thought she was a newly signed artist in the company. Unexpectedly, Yan Ji made a phone call, and his boss came out to welcome people. That night has been a little over half a year now. Gu Yufan was busy with his own studio. All his personal feelings were devoted to his work. I occasionally missed it and just opened up his mobile phone about what she had saved about her. Photo. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 774. Whatever happened that night, no matter how long it was, just remember it. It was so unforgettable that he felt ashamed and completely afraid to disturb her again. Gu Yufan didn't expect that Yanj would come to the door in person, and this bright color hit his eyes, making him look bright in an instant. Mimi, why are you here? No matter how she was dressed, she could become the focus of everyone. He stared at her, feeling her frustrated and decadent heart, and her kindness rekindled. Yanj took off his sunglasses and handed him his hand, and his brows were full of style. I've always wanted to come and see, I don't have time to go out. How about it, isn't it nice to be the boss yourself? Gu Yufan tried to calm himself, he took her hand and walked in. Okay, would you like to visit my office? Of course, Yanj said, I'm here to visit your office today. Gu Yufan is so enthusiastic about a woman, who doesn't say anything about drinking tea in person. The whole process is frowning, making the other employees in the studio completely stunned. When the cold noodle boss of their family could still have such a spring flood, they just chalked their chins. Yanj entered Gu Yufan's office, took over the tea that Gu Yufan handed over, and curiously looked at the seemingly crowded office. There was a small bedroom in the office. She was surprised and asked, "You won't return sleep here often?" "Occasionally," Gu Yufan said, "not often." Yan Ji nodded, "Whether you have to go to sleep or go home to sleep well. Work is important, but your body is more important. You can make enough money to make it work. Don't become a workaholic." Gu Yufan nodded, "Okay, listen to you. I haven't seen her for too long. She looks good enough in the photo, but she stands in front of him, bright and brilliant, which is not comparable to the photo at all." He looked at her extremely greedily, as if to look at it this way, and he could completely seize her in his own heart. Yanj tilted his head and asked him, "What is listening to me? You are a big boss now and you have to have your own idea." "Okay." The phone on his desk rang at this time. After seeing him not answering the phone for a long time, Yanj said, "You are busy if you have something." "I'm fine today, so I want to come and visit you." "You are busy. I see, just on it." Gu Yufan then answered the phone. Although she was talking to the person on the phone, her eyes kept her eyes on her. She stomped and looked through the books on his bookshelf. The long skirt swayed with her movements. Such a bright skirt was worn on her. His gaze fell on her toes, and the skirt moved slightly, revealing her feet, which had been covered by the skirt. His gaze paused, and he could never move away. The head was noisy, and the phone said nothing to her ears, only a pair of eyes stared at her feet. Those eyes seemed to be stinging, blood red. Most of Gu Yufan's bookshelves are books about acting, and several books are prose collections. This man even reads such books. Yan Song pulled out a few pages and turned out to be prose. Such a thick book can be used as a pillow. Yanj has no interest in such books, and then stomped again to put them back. "You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After my death, the villain blackened again." Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 775. Yan Ji's arm was held at this time, and the book in her hand was also taken away to help her return to her original position. Gu Yufan turned around. She was lifted by Gu Yufan and walked towards his desk. Yanj pushed him, "You, the employees outside of you are watching you." The voice was not hurried, still smiling softly, trusting him wholeheartedly. Probably in her eyes, he would not have any bad thoughts about her at all. But his heart was very blocked. The more she smiled, the more uncomfortable he felt. Sitting her on the table, he turned around and put down the jalousie, and only came to her in a few steps. Yan Ji smiled up at him. "What's wrong? Is there anything difficult at work?" Gu Yufan reached out and lifted her skirt up. He moved quickly, and it was too late when she wanted to press it. Under her skirt, one leg was intact, but the foot of the other shoe she wore was not a foot, but an iron frame. The iron shelf spread from her footsteps to her thighs. How could this be? He felt that he must have been dazzled, his shaking hand touching the steel bones on her leg, and she grasped his hand at this moment. "Don't touch." Her voice was still soft, not angry or ugly, and she said softly, "Don't touch." She tried to pull the skirt that had been pulled up in his other hand, but Gu Yufan squeezed the skirt tightly in his hand. He looked at her calm eyes and asked with a trembling voice, "When was it?" He recalled the last meeting. "Then I suddenly realized that the last time on the cruise ship, even if the two of them were lying on a bed, he had never seen her exposed legs." "It's been a long time," Yanj said with a smile. "I'm used to it, and you'll forget that it's a fake leg if you don't mention it. How could it be forgotten? It is impossible for anyone to forget such things. He stared at her smile, which made her eyes hurt and hurt. Why didn't you tell me? Yan's smile slowly closed, and she held her finger on the table and said softly, that day, I would have told you during the day, and then you went to the appointment at night. He understood her almost instantly. If he did not accept the so-called hidden rules and withstand the test she gave him, she would tell everything truthfully, but he failed to withstand the test and she broke her leg again. Presumably at that time, she had a special heart, desperate, and also especially afraid of his different looks. He finally understood why she was so determined to break up. Probably she felt that if she didn't break her leg, he could give up her for a little benefit. If she knew she had broken her leg, maybe he would abandon her without hesitation. At that time, it should be, when she was most vulnerable, he gave her the most lethal blow when she was most vulnerable. He opened his mouth, but didn't know what to say. One night, he didn't even notice her leg. What was he thinking at the time? Why didn't you pay more attention to her? He didn't know how to organize the language, so he listened to her and said, that day, when I returned to Beijing from X city, there were 3 people in a car. My injuries were minimal, the driver died, and the other was to save me. So far not out of danger. She reached out and tugged the sleeves of his shirt. Yufan, in fact, I'm here today to ask you something. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 776. Mrs. Yan, the person they beg for you is another man alive in the car. To Gu Yufan's surprised eyes, Yan Ji slowly lowered his head, but the voice continued, I was the owner of the door at the time. I should have died in the car with the driver smashing the door to save me. His kidney failure will not last long without surgery. Yufan, can you help him? He looked down and looked at the black hair she had left her. That man's aura is so powerful that Gu Yufan still remembers it so far. What is her relationship with that man? This idea has appeared in his mind countless times. The man has become an invisible love foe in his heart. It also became a mountain that made him look up. However, this man turned out to be his half-brother. On that day, the image of Yan's family coming to him fiercely was still in sight. He never thought that the first time his biological father saw him, he asked him to rescue his brother who had never met. He even did not expect that one day, his invisible rival would be his elder brother he did not want to recognize. She ripped his sleeve again and whispered, it's very difficult. You don't want to be human. In fact, any normal person wouldn't want to. I just came to do my duty and say, not to I beg you, don't take it to heart if you don't want it. Her voice was soft, and his confused thoughts were pulled back, looking at the face she had raised slightly. She frowned slightly, wondering whether she was worried about him or that person. He said, okay, I will donate a kidney for him. Since the man saved her, he helped her repay her for his life-saving grace. Hearing the words, he looked up at him, those clear eyes seemed to see his thoughts. For a long time, his eyelashes trembled, and his head dropped. Yufan, you should not do this because of me decision, you let me feel complacent. His hand touched her cheek, with her fingers pointing back, helping her to loosen her loose hair to her ears, but his fingers did not pull away from her soft hair, but a slight force made her look up with him face to face. Mimi, it is my selfishness. If a kidney can exchange your heart for me, I am very willing. Yan Ji shook his head, we will not be possible anymore, no matter how we change between us, there will never be any possibility. She looked at his puzzled eyes and looked down at her prosthetic leg. Yufan, I have a little ridiculous pride, I don't want my ugliness to be seen by people I like every day, I'm still suspicious without confidence, I can no longer believe in me and your future. Realizing that his eyes fell on her legs, she reached out and pulled the skirt out of his hands. covering her legs tightly. Even if you don't care, I will be very concerned. Just think about that life. I feel like being in purgatory. Fan, if you refuse my request, I will not blame you. It is only natural to refuse. Even if you promise to save him, I will not be grateful to you for this. I also ask you to seriously consider this matter and do not rush into a decision. Holding the table in her hand, she wanted to move down, and he held her arm in time. Are you busy today? Would you like to go to lunch together? She smiled and looked up at him, changing the subject. He couldn't say 1,000 words. Well, where do you want to eat?